Hey everyone, Spicy Toast Gaming here. Hope you're having a great day. Hope this video can make it a little bit better for you. Today we're doing a updated guide for Nasus since he got pretty much almost completely reworked with his change last patch. I guess it's sort of 2 patches away by now. We're going to go through and break down this champion, everything you need to know to succeed with him. Now, if you enjoy our daily videos, a like and subscribe is greatly appreciated, and let's get into it. So starting off with his cards, so he's a 6-cost Shurima, 3/3 baseline, which might seem pretty bad for being a 6-cost, and he's Ascended and Dog subtypes. Now he is fearsome, and I have 1/1 for each unit you've slain this game. So whenever you kill a unit with a spell, skill, or one of your units just kills it in like a block or anything like that, this is going to give you an extra 1/1. Now this is each unit, not each enemy. So if you've killed your own unit, this still benefits. So he is able to scale up through the course of the game. Now his level up is I've struck for 10 more damage in 1 strike. Now this strike doesn't really matter what you're hitting, as long as you're hitting something for 10 damage. He is able to level up. Once he levels, he then goes to a 4/4. So essentially you gain an extra 1/1. He's, by the time he leveled, obviously going to be a lot higher than this, but you're just getting an extra 1/1 when he levels. He now gets spell shield, so that's quite nice. You still have the effect of scaling up with enemies killed, or units killed, I should say. And now all enemies just have -1 power. So just by Nasus being on the board and leveled, he is reducing down enemies' power, which can be nice with your fearsome to make sure enemies can't block you. But since he's ascended, he now has a 3rd level up of the Sun Disc. Once you restore that, he can level up again. Now he goes to a 10/10, so you're getting 6/6 as far as extra stats now, so that's great. And now enemies have -3 power, so a massive debuff to all enemy units. His champion spell is the Siphoning Strike. Very good, we get a lot of upgrades for this, but baseline, it's a 5-cost slow. An ally strikes a unit. Again, not an enemy, just a unit. So you can use this on your own units if you want. Also, this just says an ally, so you don't have to target this on Nasus or a champion. You can use this on any of your units to target any other unit. But anyways, if the unit that gets hit dies, grant allied champions everywhere 2/2. And then you create Nasus in your deck since this is your champion spell. We'll get into it more with the relics, but do know this scales with secret technique, so this can give your champions everywhere 4/4. Pretty good. Now the Sun Disc, we'll get into this a little bit more, but you need to restore this to get him to his 3rd level up. Taking a look at his Constellation now. So your force power, round end, grant your strongest ally 1/1 for each unit you've slain this round. Again, this is each unit you've slain, not each enemy. Once you've slain 10 or more units, restore the Sun Disc. So the Sun Disc, this will immediately pop up, and then all of your Ascendant allies are going to be able to level up to their 3rd form. Now do note, when you restore the Sun Disc, as you see right here, immediately draw 1 of each Ascended ally, and then for the rest of the game, your level 2 Ascended allies are now level 3. This is actually quite good, because not only is your Nasus being able to level up to his 3rd form, but you're immediately drawing a copy of him, and then any other Ascendants like Azir, Renekton, or Xerath, any of them you have in your deck immediately gets drawn, so some guaranteed champion draw is quite nice. But your 2-star +1 starting mana, enemies have -1 power, and vulnerable enemies have -3 power instead. This is massive. So this star power used to just have enemies have -1, and that was it. But now you actually are further incentivized to give enemies vulnerable, which makes it easier for you to be able to kill them, because now vulnerable allies can get challenged. So that is very good. Makes you get the best trades possible, gives you some extra removal, which then helps your scaling, both for your units and your Nasus. But now you have more reason to build around vulnerable, since you're then reducing down enemies' attack as well, which is again great for you to be able to get kills and have your own unit survive. Also, I'll just quickly mention for the 1st star power, this second part of once you've slain 10 or more units, this used to only be in the 3rd star power, so the fact that they put this in the 1st one is quite nice. For your 3rd star power then, grant your strongest ally 2/2 for each unit you've slain this round, so doubling the effect of the 1st one. Now, once you've slain 8 or more units, restore the Sun Disc. Very good. Quite often before, this effect normally wouldn't trigger. You could often end before you've slain 10 units, or this would happen just right at the very end when you're finishing anyways. So now just dropping it to 8 units does actually make this trigger much more often. For your 4th star, in my sight, round start, grant the weakest enemy vulnerable. This is excellent. For one, this will only hit targets that don't already have vulnerable. So this isn't just going to keep hitting the same unit that already has it over and over again. So this will just slowly be working on giving all the enemy units vulnerable. That's doing a couple things for you. For one, you can now then challenge them to make sure you get the best possible trades, but then now you're also then reducing them down by -3 power. This is very, very good. And overall, his first 4 star powers just synergize so well together. They did a great job updating his kit. For your 5th star, it's just get that mana flow. Then for the 6th star, I'll just quickly drop off my camera. So when you slay a unit, reduce the cost of every card in your hand by 1 to a minimum of a 1 cost. And then when you restore the Sun Disc, grant allies everywhere 5/5. So this is excellent for you. It's giving you further incentive of slaying units. Again, can be your own units or enemy units. And by doing that, you're getting some cost reduction, which is great because Nasus is a bit of a ramp deck. So this is just speeding up your game plan immensely. You're already wanting to slay units. Your first 4 star powers are really great at further incentivizing this, and this is just helping it even more. And then you have more reason to try to restore the Sun Disc, because now when you do that, you're just giving all your units everywhere that extra 5/5. So overall, this and just all of the new star powers or updated star powers play super well together. This is one of those 6 stars that doesn't necessarily change what you're doing too much, but it's just making everything you do feel even better, and it's great to play with. Now, as far as some of the bonus stars, you get 8 regen, quite nice. Your support champs have Immortal, not too bad. Siphoning Strike has Stopwatch, so it now goes from slow speed to burst speed. That is massive because you can use this now reactively to just immediately kill enemy units or even your own units if you want some scaling. Now your Shuriman followers you require have Giant's Belt, letting them be able to survive a little bit longer. You really want to keep units on your board, especially for your star powers. Because right here, if you don't have a unit on your board, then there's no one to get hit by this scaling. So you always want to have someone on your board. So getting some extra health and survivability, not too bad. Weight of Judgment has Charging Sigil, so it gets a little bit extra damage. And Weight of Judgment is like kind of a 2 damage spell, or it has damage in 2 different increments. So deal 2 to a champion or 4 to a follower. Both of those are being increased by this 2 damage. And then the rest here are all just the gemstone upgrades. If we take a look at the layout of it, so you start down here, and then right here is your 3rd star power. Now you can go to the side and get the 4th star. Nice that it's out of the way. And then behind it is just a gemstone, so not one of the normal upgrades locked behind your 4th star, which is pretty good. Here, just Star Bounty, 8 regen, solid. And then again to the side is your 5th star. Really great that they did this. Always good when your star powers are off of the main path, that's not locking anything behind them other than like gemstone upgrades. Now from here, you can go over and get your Weight of Judgment. And then up here is your 6th star, or you can go across and get your Siphoning Strike, Giant Belt for your units, upgrade for your support champions. And then down here are just 2 of the gemstone upgrades. So obviously you want to start off with your 3rd star power. I do recommend picking up your 4th star power when you can, but luckily it's off here to the side. And then you want to come up, get the regen, and then go to the right. The Siphoning Strike upgrade is pretty massive. Giant's Belt is nice, and then any upgrade you support champions is good. To the left here, not really that great of an upgrade. It's fine, but one of the least impactful ones that you have. Overall, though, the Nasus upgrade is very good. Let's go take a look at his starting deck. So take a look at the starting deck. This is another spot that they just completely overhauled. Honestly, with Nasus before, there was a lot of pain points, and I kind of thought they would address a couple of them, but they pretty much overhauled everything that was bad with him before, which is excellent, and his starting deck was one of the worst. So you get to start off with the Bakai Reaper. When you slay a unit, grant me 1 power. So great slay synergy. Great that we have this over the Renekton one cost that we had before. Exhaust, we had this before, but now we have new synergy with Vulnerable, so that is great. Further reducing down an enemy by 2 power. Then remember, since you're giving them Vulnerable, they're gonna get another -3 from your 2nd star power, and this having draw on it is excellent. We get Defenders of the Sun Disc, so Daybreak, draw a Defenders of the Sun Disc. You can play this card to immediately draw another version of it, as long as the first cards you play in the round, which more draw, excellent. This gets Pickaxe and Bounty Board. Last Breath, summon a 1 cost unit from your regions. Again, very good just to try to make sure you always have a unit on your board. Next, then we get Rockhopper. When I'm summoned, summon a Rolling Sands, which right here, when an enemy is summoned, destroy me to granted vulnerable. So further working with that vulnerable synergy you now have. Then we get Siphoning Strike, which gets reduced down to a 3 cost because that Tira the Goddess. This is great that you have your champion spell as just a normal card in your deck. That's great. And remember, this can go to burst speed from the Constellation. Next, then we have Weight of Judgment, which deal 2 to a champion or 4 to a follower. This gets Morellonomicon, which applies Gloom instead of dealing damage to units. So while this damage isn't crazy, and remember you do get 2 extra damage from the Constellation, but while this damage isn't crazy, by hitting a unit with this, you just make them a lot weaker, which further fits into the whole theme of Nasus just reducing down all the enemy units. Then we get the Bakai Sand Spinner, which was already in his deck, but you didn't have that vulnerable synergy, so now it's actually much better. Play grant an enemy -1 and vulnerable, which gives them another -3, so very solid right there. And then you have the Rampaging Bakai, so this gets Fury, Regen, Overwhelm. Play if you've slain 4 or more units this game, an enemy and I strike each other, which just helps you get even more slay effects. Overall, his deck is massively improved because they took out some of the cards that didn't really belong there, and then even the cards that were already there now work even better because they have extra vulnerable synergy. So overall, they did a great job redesigning his starting deck. It is just so much better. Now let's take a look at Relics. Starting off, obviously, if you're trying to just level him up as fast as possible, then yeah, you probably want to throw on a Cosmic Blessing for that extra XP. If you want to go for that, the True Ice Flail is pretty fun. When I'm summoned, give enemies vulnerable this round. Sadly, this is a give, not a grant, so it's only going to last for the round, but this is just going to hit all the enemies with vulnerable, reducing them all down by -3 power. So that is a pretty fun common item you can use. You can also go for Z Drive just for some extra rerolls to make sure you get the right powers or upgrades. And then Troll King's Crusher, always solid to get that Overwhelm. And then last up, we have Starchild Staff. Start adventures with 5 or more regen. Quite nice, especially early, just to make sure you can get through these adventures where you don't have a lot of Nexus health, no revives, and not a lot of regen. Now, as far as rare relics, there's a bunch of different ways you can go. For one, you can kind of go for a little bit more of a spell-focused build with like Archangel Staff and pairing it with like a Grand General's Counter Plan. So you're making a copy of your champion spell, your Siphoning Strike every round. Pretty good. While you do have a lot more draw in your kit than you used to, you still can run out of things to play. And so always generating just an extra spell that's giving you further scaling and removal every round is pretty good. So pairing these two together isn't bad. You can always just throw on some stats for your Nasus so you can be hitting a little bit harder, which is okay as well. Corrupted Star Fragment is good. It's a little bit of a mixed bag. Support, kill my supported ally, grant me its keywords and stats. Normally with Nasus, you're not often wanting to clear out your board or killing your own units, but it's not the worst thing, especially once you have Nasus on the board. So it's not too bad. You're getting a lot more stats on your Nasus. You're getting a slay effect, which is helping him level and triggering all of your slay effects. So overall, it's a pretty good rare relic. Another one that I just thought of right now, which I actually need to test. I think I'm going to go test this after I record it and then maybe add a little annotation on screen on whether it works or not. But Crown Guard, when I level up Rally, if this works with both of your level ups, this could be a lot better. You're able to trigger both of your level ups much more often or much more consistently now. And so if you can trigger this twice, then Crown Guard could actually be pretty good, and kind of all of the level up relics could actually be a lot better. So I think I'm going to try to test that after I record this, and I'll probably just put something on screen on whether or not this worked. If it does work, then this and just all the level up relics actually going to be pretty decent for you. So these are the 3 level up relics: Crown Guard, Tempest Blade, and Deceiver's Crest. All of them have the modifier of when I level up, they do something. Normally these can be pretty strong for specific champions, but most of the time it's just a one-off effect, and these are all very good for champions that can use them multiple times or can trigger them multiple times. If you can trigger it several times with your Nasus, then each one of these will actually be pretty solid for you. I think especially the Crown Guard and the Deceiver's Crest, since getting a couple copies of your champion spell for free could be pretty solid. Moving on then, let's take a look at Stalker's Blade. Very good. When I'm summoned, I strike the weakest enemy. This is still a summon effect, not a play effect. So if you have like ephemeral copies of Nasus also being summoned from like Stabilize or Shadow Totem, all of them going to get a strike off as well. This can be very good. For one, you're probably going to be killing whatever you're hitting since you're striking the weakest enemy. And then if you're able to hit that 10 damage threshold, you're able to immediately level up when you play Nasus. So having one or even a couple of these on your Nasus can actually be pretty good. Succubus Brand, a little bit somewhat of a more meme one, but is actually pretty decent. 1/1, so extra stats, great. When I kill a unit, I summon a random husk. So getting some more scaling and kind of generation going isn't too bad for you, especially if you're able to get Nasus to 6 stars, because then all of your units everywhere are going to be able to get that extra 5/5 potentially, which means the husks can be a lot bigger, and then whatever unit consumes them will also get all those extra stats. And while Stalker's Blade is pretty good, you could always go for the Curator's Gatebreaker. It is the Nasus rare relic after all. This one is just a play effect, and it is going to reduce down your power a little bit, but you can use this to strike the enemy Nexus and try to still get that damage off to level him up immediately. Generally, I say Stalker's Blade is better, but you can go here if you want. Now, Troll King's Crown, this one is okay. It's not quite as needed as it was before. Allies have Overwhelm. Nice to be able to get these big hits off. Normally now with Nasus, since you have Fearsome, you actually can get a lot of the units not to be able to block you. And then even if there was a champion that could block you, they're probably going to be able to have vulnerable, so you could just have them get dragged aside by one of your weaker units. So while Overwhelm is still solid, it's not as needed as it felt before. Wicked Harvest, this one can be pretty fun. Play deal 3 to all other units. So this is going to damage your units and the enemy's units, but this can potentially rack you a good amount of kills, which can just give you a bunch of scaling for your Nasus and potentially trigger your Sun Disc to be restored a lot earlier. All right, that's it for rare relics. Now let's take a look at epic relics. So Black Shield, solid, just protecting all of units with spell shield. Good, just passive general epic relic. Cease and desist, this one can be okay. I normally don't like it as much because then you have to play Nasus with the 10 plus power, and normally I like the flexibility of just playing him kind of whenever I want, whenever I can. But this gives you 3 impact. Play if you have 10 or more power, give me barrier, start a free attack challenging the strongest enemy. So this can be pretty good. Nasus can immediately try to attack. If you can give him overwhelm, he can do a lot of damage. Also, if you're able to give him like Stalker's Blade with this free attack, since he's going to be attacking, when he strikes, he's going to be triggering the impact damage. So it's giving you a good amount of extra damage, but it makes him a lot more rigid because you have to make sure he's at 10 or more power. And sometimes in the game, it's like you could play your Nasus right now, get him on the board, but he's at like 8 or 9 power, and so you can't quite play him yet, which is a little frustrating. Cruel Experiments can be okay if you want to get overwhelmed and you don't have like Beast Within, just a way to get a little bit of extra damage. Disciple of Shadows, this can be pretty fun to try to get your Nasus on the board earlier. Gives you some cost reduction, and then since you're damaging your own units, you're likely going to be able to kill them, which just gives you even more scaling, and it can help you trigger your Sun Disc even faster, so that one's not too bad. Echoing Spirit, this can be good. A little bit of a double-edged sword, so be aware of it. Game start, create 7 copies in your deck. Champion spells cost 1 less. You get a bunch more copies of your Nasus, and then when you play your Nasus, you're essentially getting a bunch of your Siphoning Strike, so this is great for just being able to kill a ton of units, get a bunch of scaling for your champions. One issue is, since you have so many copies of Nasus, you might start the game with nothing but copies of your Nasus, and then your hand's kind of bricked, so you do have to be careful of that, but it can be very good. Frozen Tomb can be solid. Game start, you make this landmark that has a Nasus trapped inside, and then it will count down. Can be a good way to guarantee you get your Nasus on the board. And since this is going to be a summon effect, you can pair this with like Stalker's Blades, so that when Nasus pops out, he just starts striking away. That can be a pretty fun little combo for you. Now let's take a look at the Scales of Judgment. Power, when you play a champion, it strikes the weakest enemy. If it's Nasus, it strikes the strongest enemy as well. This is Nasus' signature relic. This is available in his celebration bundle, I believe it's called. It gives you a solid power. Now, this is a play effect, not a summon effect. So if you have any ephemeral copies with like Stabilize, Shadow Totem, it's not going to trigger this. But it's pretty good because now your Nasus is striking 2 targets, potentially getting 2 kills. And then your support champions, when you play them, they are also getting a strike off as well. So overall, pretty solid for you. Secret Technique, this is pretty good. When an ally gains stats from a spell, it gains twice as many instead. This works with your Siphoning Strike like we mentioned earlier. So now instead of 2-2, your champions are getting 4-4 every time it gets a kill. So this can be pretty fun if you want to go for a Siphoning Strike focus build. Let's finish up then by talking about Stack Deck and Beast Within. So Stack Deck, 200 gold, power, allies have 1/1 for every 12 card in your deck past 18 at game start. Another good, just solid passive relic to throw on and just give all of your units a little bit more scaling. And then Beast Within, power, allies have Overwhelm if they have a subtype 1/1. You do have some subtypes in your kit, so that's just giving you a little bit of scaling, but the big thing is just that Overwhelm. Again, a very nice passive effect. Normally you don't need it as much anymore, since your fearsome action can be pretty good, and since you have so much vulnerable, you can normally drag units aside and still get pretty good trades. So solid, but not quite as needed. All right, that's it for the in-game portion. Let's go take a look at what powers you want to look out for, cards to look out for, support champs to look out for, and finish off with his overall rankings. All right, take a look at these powers now. So up first, here on the left, we have Dragon's Rage. When you summon an ally, granted Fury, it's a dragon, and that Fury, when that unit kills or slays another unit, it gets an extra 1/1. This is really nice, just further reinforcing what you're trying to do, having your units slay other units, or even your own, potentially. Fixer Up round start, give your weakest ally 3/3 this round. Overall, a very good, just general power. Now, it is temporary just for the round, but buffing up your weakest unit to be able to let them try to survive and get some more kills in can be very solid. You're all about trying to have some units stay on your board so they can keep getting buffed up. So this is just pretty helpful, buffing up your weakest unit. Vanguard Lookout, game start, summon 2 Vanguard Lookouts. Nice to just get units on your board. That can be good if you're running the Disciple of Shadows on your Nasus, giving you some more cost reduction, but just having some 2 blockers or potentially 2 people that can try to get some kills early is quite nice, especially since The enemy, remember, from your second star power is going to be getting hit with a vulnerable on their weakest unit. So trying to have some of your own units on the board that can just try to immediately start killing enemy units is very helpful. And note, pretty much anything that's summoning units either at the start of the round or game start is going to be very good. So don't just think it's the Vanguard Lookouts. Any ability that is doing this is solid for you. Next up then, in my sights, round start, grant the weakest enemy vulnerable. Now this is your 4-star, but before you get the 4-star, great to get. And then even once you do have the 4-star, having both of these go out, hitting enemies with vulnerable and just trying to make sure all the enemy units have that vulnerable and that -3 is very solid. Trifarian Might, when you summon a 5+ power ally, it strikes the weakest enemy. Now most of your units will be able to trigger this, and then if you're at 6 stars, once you get that Sun Disc restored, literally every unit will be able to trigger this. But this is just giving you a bunch of extra removal, which is great for you, triggering all of your slay effects. This is just giving your Nasus another chance to slay, because he should be over a 5/5 by the time you play him. So overall, pretty nice to get. And then hold it, round start, stun the strongest enemy. Having this one, or also one of the Frostbite power, or some of the other stun powers as well, any of them is pretty solid. With Nasus, you are kind of a ramp champion, and so having the ability to just slow down the game a little bit and making sure the enemy can't use some of their strongest units is pretty solid. Next up then, memory game, create a fleeting copy of the last non-fleeting cards you played. With Nasus, while you do have a decent amount of draw, it is still pretty common to kind of run out of things to play. Also with Nasus, quite often you have very powerful cards you want to play multiple times, such as your Siphoning Strike. So getting a couple extra copies of those cards and just making sure you don't run out of things to play is quite nice. Shared mana flow game start, both players get a mana gem, so it's helping you and the enemy. This is just trying to help you ramp up a little bit more. So anything you can get that's just giving you some extra cost reduction, some extra mana, any of that is solid, even in a situation like this where you're also helping the enemy. Then we also have sorcery, round start, refill your spell mana. You have a decent amount of spells you want to play, so having the freedom to play that is nice. But again, also any of the spell-based abilities that are either reducing down your spell costs or giving you some mana back when you play a spell, anything like that, any of those will be solid for you. Now, it's not like you're spamming out spells with Nasus, but you are playing them pretty regularly. Taking a look at support champions now. As always, not an exhaustive list, just some things to consider when looking at champions. So up first, Ascendant, any other Ascendant allies you can get, so like Renekton, Azir, Xerath, I think those are the only ones other than Nasus. Any of them will be pretty good since you are trying to restore the Sun Disc. You're going to be able to level that up, which is going to give you more draw for those units and then make them more powerful than they normally would be. Next up then, Vulnerable. Anyone else that has Vulnerable that can help you trigger that is very good. And then last up, just anyone that has solid units. You are a pretty unit-focused deck, and so making sure you can just get more good units is solid. Up first then, we have Renekton. He actually works for all three of these. He's Ascendant, he has Vulnerable Synergy, and then he has very solid units. So Renekton, probably in general your best support champion, so definitely consider getting him anytime you see it. Next up then, we have Shyvana. Again, she has some really solid units, and she has some good Fury or Slay effects. You're trying to kind of do a lot of the same things you're doing with Nasus, so she works out pretty well. We also have Garen, again, just really solid units, and other ways to try to kill enemies with like your single combats. Really for support champions though, the biggest thing you're generally looking for is just good ways to get better units into your deck. Not that your units are bad, but other good units are good. Now do note that we didn't list it here, but if you want to go the route of maybe going for Shadow Isle so you can have a bunch of effects for killing your own units, that also is pretty viable as well. Now some cards to look out for. Up here we have Rite of Calling, so slow speed, kill an ally or destroy one of your mana gems to draw a champion. You don't have to worry about killing your own allies, you get benefits from that, and then making sure you can draw out one of your champion. Quite nice. Ruthless Predator, this is in the Renekton support package. Give an ally 2 power and give an enemy vulnerable this round. Really, really good. Scrying Sands, predict, give an enemy -2. This also came with the Elixir of Skill, so you're predicting and then immediately drawing that card. Really good combo right there. And then also just further reducing down enemies' power. Excellent. Chronicler of Ruin, play, kill an ally, then revive it. This is also in general a decent unit as well, but you're killing a unit, so you're triggering a Slay effect and then you're bringing it back. And it's also a deathless, so you then could kill this unit and then get them back as well. And then last up, slightly covered up by Nasus, but the Desert Duel, give an enemy -2 this round and an ally and that enemy strike each other. Great for further reducing down enemies' power, and then also just gain some cost reduction so it's a little bit more playable. These are kind of the types of cards you want to look out for. Ones that are killing your own units for a really solid benefit, that's not too bad, or ones that are giving the enemy vulnerable, giving you some more draw, but also anytime you just seen, again, really solid unit, just go ahead and grab them as well. Finally, finishing off with his rankings, I think before level 20 he's just a solid B tier champion. I think after level 20 he is very very much an A tier champion. He feels very good to play. I don't think he quite is as crazy as like an S tier champion, but I think he is still very, very solid. As far as pros, he is now a very balanced champion. He has a decent amount of draw. He has good control with reducing enemies down with vulnerable. He's focused on his units, but he still has a lot of spells. And just overall, he's kind of a jack of all trades and somewhat master of none. So really good balanced play style. He also has really good scaling. And as far as some cons, you are reliant on your units. A lot of your effects need to have a unit on the board. For one, you have to have a unit on the board to get your scaling off from your 3rd star power. And then a lot of your removal is either your units essentially challenging enemy units from that vulnerable, or using like a siphoning strike. And those just rely on you having units. So if the enemy is able to just shut your units down, you're going to have a bad time. Also, you are a bit of a ramp champion. Now, this gets massively fixed with your 6-star, where because of that cost reduction, you don't really feel that slow anymore. But especially while you're leveling them up, he is a little bit of a slower scaling ramp champion. So you can sometimes just get rushed down by the enemy, but you have a lot more tools to deal with that now to slow down the game with your much better ability of reducing enemies' attack. Still, though, it is something to bear in mind. As far as his regional rankings, I think he is mid. I think Kaisa, at least as far as like for 6 stars, I think Kaisa is still stronger than him, but I would say he is stronger than Talia. So especially comparing him to other 6-star champions, I think he is mid there. Now, I think if you're only comparing him to 3-star champions, he would probably still be mid, because him as a 3-star is now going to be better than Kaisa, but Nidalee is now going to be able to blow him out of the water for 3-star. So still generally mid-tier champion, but that's not bad because Shurima does have some very strong and some very weak champions. And really for Nasus, he feels greatly improved and he feels very good, but not incredible. Like when people are talking about the most broken champions, they're not going to be talking about Nasus. But this is still a great improvement. He used to be one of the worst champions in the game. Like I feel like if a lot of people did a list of the top 5 worst champions, most people would probably have Nasus in that list. So they did a massive improvement, making him so much better. So kudos to Riot. I hope this updated guide was able to help you out. If you enjoyed it, a like and subscribe. Always appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your day.